Good evening, you're watching India Today. I'm Gaurav Sawant. A team of investigators from Israel will assist the Delhi police. They'll join hands and then try and figure out who was responsible for the blast outside the Israeli embassy in the national capital. Because Israel is very clear, this is an act of terror. This isn't just an act of some miscreants out to create a sensation. The Delhi police did make some sketches, but they haven't made much headway in that direction. A little-known organization called Jaish-ul-Hind has claimed responsibility, but is this an effort to throw investigations off track? Is there an Iranian hand, as some suspect? Our crime bureau brings you our top story.
A small blast, few windshields shattered near the Israeli embassy, but the echoes were felt as far as Israel. A day after the minor explosion, the special cell of Delhi police, forensic experts, NSG and NIS Luz are trying to piece together the evidence to nab the perpetrators. On your screens is the exact spot where the Friday's blast took place. These are the remnants of the IED, which appears to be a tin material.
हम इस वक्त इजराइल एम्बेसी के ठीक बाहर हैं और आप देख सकते हैं दिल्ली पुलिस के अधिकारी यहां से तमाम चीजें लेकर के जा रहे हैं। जो वो सबूत हैं यहां से जो इकट्ठा किए गए हैं उनका बॉक्स लेकर के जा रहे हैं, जिससे कि आगे इसकी जांच की जा सके। ये पूरी किट है जो लेकर के आए थे और यहां तमाम ऐसी चीजें कलेक्ट की गई हैं जो बेहद इंपॉर्टेंट हो सकती हैं इस पूरी जांच में।
Cops have also recovered a letter addressed to the Israeli ambassador from the site of the blast, calling it just a trailer. The letter mentions the name of Iran's assassinated General Qasem Soleimani and also names Iran's top nuclear scientist who was killed, calling them martyrs.
With Iran's name cropping up in the investigation, the probe agencies are moving very cautiously. The Delhi police has sought details of all the persons who have entered in India in last 1 month, specifically from Iran and Middle East countries.
With Iran's name cropping up in the probe agencies are working cautiously. Delhi police is collecting data of all Iranians residing in the capital. Israel has called the attack an act of terror, and its intelligence agency Mossad will soon join the probe in Delhi.
We refer to it as a terror attack, and we take all the precautions and, of course, the necessities that we need in this kind of event. So we refer to it as a terror attack. Yes.
Meanwhile, an unknown and unheard organization, Jaish-ul-Hind, has claimed the responsibility for the blast. The cops are probing the Telegram chat in which the group claims that it is just the beginning of a series of attacks in the country. While the probe is gathering steam, the incident clearly shows once again that how terror remains an ever-present danger, keeping our security establishments on its toes. With Geeta Mohan, Shivendra Srivastav and Munish Pandey, Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me on the broadcast is Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director, Intelligence Bureau, and Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, two of the finest voices on national security and counter-terrorism. Mr. Azad, in your appreciation, Jaish-ul-Hind, a little-known terrorist organization, claims responsibility for this. Could this be an effort to throw investigators off track?
Yes, I mean, because I've never heard of this organization, and as rightly said by you, it's a very little-known organization. Because the envelope which has been received is a great pointer, because the Indian soil has been used, and especially now with your finding, which I'm seeing on your channel, that a timer device is there. The 4 parts of a bomb are complete, absolutely: the detonator, the charge, which is PNT, the switching mechanism, and the power supply, which is battery. Now, PTN has been used by you. You recall the underwear bomb, which was there on the Northwest Atlantic. The shoe bomb, which was used by John Reed. There was an attack against, again, using P10, Saudi Prince in 2009. So this signature is a little disturbing. And that's why it needs a very, very probe. Now, since it was a timer device and it was placed on the divider in between, did it go off at the right time or not? Was it for the passing cars or something? So there are a whole lot of things which need to be looked into. But one thing, Gaurav, I would like to say that, you see, NSG will be the final authoritative version if they say which traces of which bomb has been really found.
Yes.
So that's one. And secondly, as far as the Iran interests are concerned, I mean, Iran had already announced after the death of their very popular general Soleimani, I think, Soleimani, and the other one, the nuclear scientist.
General Soleimani, yes, sir.
That direction was against America and Israel. So right now, I think it's good that we are on high alert, and the investigations will really have to look at every threads in great detail.
They indeed have to. And Sushant Sareen, as far as self-radicalized elements in our country are concerned, that could well be an effort to throw investigations in the wrong direction. This could have been orchestrated from outside, but would Iran want to do it again? In 2012, they were virtually caught red-handed, and it had massive international diplomatic connotations and an impact on India-Iran relations, Sushant Sareen.
Precisely. Gaurav, here is the thing. On the face of it, it would seem that Iran is going to be prime suspect. But I don't think one thing you can say about the Iranians is that they are not stupid. Even in 2012, there was nobody from Iran who actually claimed that attack. It was only discovered through very good investigation by the Indian security agencies. So I don't see how if there was indeed an Iranian hand behind this particular attack, would the Iranians actually lead the investigation to themselves by putting that letter out? Or would it be in somebody else's interest to throw the investigation, off track and direct it to in a direction which is probably going to be misleading? So, one, I have that doubt in my mind whether the Iranians will do this because of the repercussions, not just between Iran and Israel and the US and all of that, but also between India and Iran. So I think they would be extremely cautious before they were to try something like 2012 again on Indian soil. The second aspect is that there is also that Telegram post. We don't know how reliable that is or not. And as far as this particular group is concerned, these are shadowy groups, and Mr. Azad would know better than any one of us that some of these groups emerge only to claim a particular attack and disappear after that. And if you look at the language of that Telegram post, it sounds very Pakistani in my view, because who uses, I have not seen many terrorist groups, even which have operated in India, using the term Indian state or the atrocities of the Indian state. So Indian those state. Kind of that phraseology is something which you read every day in Pakistan rather than among the jihadist groups otherwise.
That's a very interesting point, Mr. Azad. A little-known organization called Jaish-ul-Hind would suddenly come up, use the phraseology, as Sushant Sareen points out, Indian state and the, alleged or the so-called atrocities of the Indian state. Could this be an attempt to show the Delhi police or the government in very poor light by a bomb? Maybe it was intended to be a bigger blast and it didn't explode the way these terrorists intended it to, and that is why people were saved, or just 3 cars were damaged, and not a bigger blast, but clearly much more than a mischievous act as the Delhi police initially claimed.
Mr. Sareen is absolutely right. Organizations like Jaish-ul-Hind, they are like bubbles in the water. And the kind of phraseology used is a pointer towards, across the border, because these are things which have always been propped up with these kind of slogans and propaganda which are becoming decisive. The second point which I would like to state is that, investigations, of course, cannot only remain with the pointer towards Iran. Obviously, I think there are elements like ISIS which really need to be looked into, because their interests are also wide and deep. You realize the kind of propaganda they had unleashed to lure young recruits from India to go to IS battlefields. Some of them had come back, some of them were scared, but the interrogations have revealed a wealth of information, the way they have tried to create support bases in places like Delhi and India, rather Bangalore and other places. Now, the third point is, yes, there is this element that the timer device could have hurt somebody if somebody was passing by it had blasted at that particular time, or maybe because it being a high security zone, this attempt was a small attempt, and but it alerts you for their future. What is very funny is, why would any organization would like to give some kind of a threat already before conducting an act? This is not really done. That is something which needs to be explored, and maybe the interrogations.
That's the point. Oh, absolutely. So were they trying? Yes. Were they trying something bigger and they failed at something bigger? Stay with me, because if we also go by that letter or the intelligence alert, so two aspects here very critical. The intelligence alert had spoken of the Islamic State or Daesh wanting to target United States, Israel, India and other countries, and there was a specific threat about the Israeli embassy in the national capital on the 23rd of January. So the Daesh threat is point one, and point two, which becomes very interesting at this point of time, was this, as some argue, a trailer, a prelude to a bigger attack? And that is why security has been strengthened across vital assets and vital points in the country.
Low-intensity blast near the Israel embassy in Delhi on Friday has triggered heavy security deployment across airports and VIP areas across the country. Mumbai police has beefed up security around Israeli and Jewish installations in the city.
We are present outside Chabad House in Mumbai. As you know, in 2008, 26/11 attacks, this was one of the places where terrorists had attacked. Here, senior officials have checked the security with the dog squad and the bomb squad. Right now also you can see how the Mumbai police officials are present over here. Also, the combat vehicle of Mumbai police is deployed over here. There are also several other Jewish stalls in Mumbai. All over, the security checks are being done.
An alert has also been issued at all airports and important installations and government buildings in the national capital.
हम इस वक्त दिल्ली के IGI एयरपोर्ट पर हैं, जहां हर रोज हजारों की तादाद में लोग आते हैं जाते हैं। स्पेशल रूप से यहां पर इसलिए भी ताकीद किया गया है, निर्देश दिया गया है कि हर आने जाने वाले पैसेंजर को ध्यान रखें, क्योंकि संदेह ये है कि हो सकता है इस ब्लास्ट के पीछे किसी बाहर के आदमी का हाथ हो और इस घटना के बाद वो फरार होने की फिराक में हो। इसमें ईरान और पाकिस्तान से जाने वाली फ्लाइट्स और वहां के आने वाले नागरिकों पर विशेष रूप से नजर रखी जाने के लिए बात कही गई।
High alert has been sounded in various other cities. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has assured his Israeli counterpart of the fullest protection. Home Minister Amit Shah even cancelled his weekend Bengal tour and is in constant touch with senior Delhi police officials, monitoring the situation closely. Bureau Report, India Today.
And let me now quickly cut across to India Today's Akshita Nandgopal, who breaks down the contents of this letter that have now been sent for forensic examination.
There was an envelope that was recovered from the blast site and it was addressed to the Israeli ambassador. We've got details of what was mentioned in the letter in that envelope. Here's what it said. It referred to the explosion as just a trailer, signaling that there will be more such incidents and attacks. The letter also mentions the name of Iran's assassinated general Soleimani, and that's what's led to a lot of questions about whether there's an Iranian hand, an Iranian link in this attack. Not just that, this letter also goes ahead and names Iran's top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Now, remember that both of these leaders have in fact been assassinated in 2020, and both have been referred to as martyrs in this letter. That's why you've got authorities now going ahead and seeking records and details of all Iranians who are currently in the national capital. So big leads that have emerged from that letter.
Let me once again bring in Mr. Yashovardhan Azad and Sushant Sareen for more on this. Mr. Azad, as far as security outside and around the Israeli embassy are concerned, one of the vital assets, it's been targeted and we're pretty much clueless about who did this. Does this point to a major chink in the security in the national capital, and that too around Republic Day and beating retreats, sir?
Well, I would not really like to call it as a failure of the security, because what has really happened is, and what needs a proper review is the fact, number one, that the Israeli embassy and its interests are very heavily protected throughout India. They are given topmost priority. Secondly, the Israeli diplomats get the highest security rating. Now, when you have such a high security cover, then the area where they are around does have ancillary devices also for upping security, and CCTV, etc. These are very very extremely important devices. Now, if I hear that some of them are not working, it's extremely unfortunate. And besides, when there was, as the Israeli envoy was, or Israeli ambassador was saying that we knew about this, coming in the last 7 days, this must have been shared with the security agencies. I'm 100% sure. So obviously there should have been a little more security around the area. In this, somebody to come and place a bomb in the flower pot, that sounds a little odd to me. And this would certainly need a probe and a review by the security agencies.
Okay, and that too, when that letter, Sushant Sareen, says that this is a trailer, a prelude to a bigger terror strike. Now, is that an empty boast? Is that an attempt to throw agencies off track? Or is that actually a claim that we've done this, we could do this despite high security and stand by for more?
Look, Gaurav, I think there are two ways I'll answer the question. Number one, these guys or these jokers haven't been able to do anything much. Let's face it. Okay. You know the APJ Abul Kalam Marg. You know that you can drive through and just chuck something somewhere and get away with it. And the criminal aspect of this entire thing. And for that, the police must be held responsible, or the security agencies must be held responsible, that if something as basic as your CCTV cameras are not working, then heads must roll. Because this thing that, oh, sorry, once an incident happens, when we checked, we found that the camera was not working, the resolution was not okay, then why the hell have you put all those that equipment out there? And why isn't a regular check done to see whether that entire equipment is working or not? Because every time an incident happens and you discover that you don't have the kind of footage you required to nail the culprits, then what's the point of doing this in the first place? But having said that, the security was good enough that these guys could simply just chuck something and go away. They couldn't do anything more than that. But I don't think we should take the threat which they have made lightly. I think once the investigations start digging deep into who these characters were, and you start peeling the layers of what this whole act was all about, then I think that is the way forward. Because in India, we have enough enemies across the border. We know the Pakistanis. We know they've been fishing in troubled waters. We know their involvement with the Khalistanis. They've been trying to incite the farmers. They are very active in Kashmir, which they're trying to ignite all over again. We know also that they have made outreaches to some people in the Muslim community in India. There are links out there. And then there are the international organizations, some of them with links with the Pakistanis, but some of them, international jihadist organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So we have no dearth of enemies. And I think the government would be remiss if it was not to follow through on the threat. No such threat should be taken lightly.
Oh, absolutely. No, and to come to think of it, Mr. Azad, so Sushant Sareen's listed out a huge list of threats and enemies that our country has across the border, overseas, and elements within, and yet we find that even a place like the Israeli embassy is not 100% safe, or CCTV cameras are not working, or more than 24 hours later, we still do not know who chucked the bomb and went. And perhaps that is one reason why Israelis think that they have to send their own team to India to help with investigations. Does that reflect rather poorly on us, sir?
No, not really. I mean, Israelis take these things very, very meticulously, and if anything happens around their interests or embassies anywhere in the world, their security team is already on the job. Their intelligence agencies do a complete, thorough exercise. they collaborate with the local agencies. In that respect, I would not find it really amiss, and rather we should welcome it, because our collaboration is there in so many other fields. So on this case, to crack this case, if they are giving additional information, see, as Mr. Sareen said, like India faces a wide array of threats from various sources, so does Israel. And the Israeli intelligence agencies will be able to pinpoint many of these things much, much better, and will be able to inform our security agents, which will be of great help in the investigation. And as I said earlier, the investigation is wide open, because one need not look into one side. And as Mr. Sareen said, whether it's the Al-Qaeda, whether it's the ISIs, whether it's the Pakistani elements trying to fish in troubled waters, we need to look into very. But I still feel that it's very sad that whenever incidents happen in Delhi, some of the CCTVs don't work, and especially in a critical case like this will cost, us, and that's really unfortunate. These kind of things should have been looked into, because if Israeli
absolutely. I've been speaking to top sources in the government, and I'm told that a lot of electronic intelligence and investigation is currently underway in terms of mobile phones that were operational in this area. When were those mobile phones operational here, and where else did they go from here? A lot of that effort is currently underway, and there could well be some breakthrough if in not too much in the future, and we'll be tracking that story very closely. Forensic evidence gathered from the flower bed here is being matched with the National Bomb Data Center and NSG. They will have some more information. We'll be tracking the latest, but for the moment, Mr. Azad and Mr. Sareen, many thanks for joining me. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.